Hey guys, this is Basement Breakdown. Today I won't be breaking down any fights per se, but I'll be breaking down who are two of my favorite fighters. One being who I think is the best of all time, the other being a personal favorite of mine. And there's some good contrast between those two guys, to be fair. But yeah, my favorite fighter personally of all time is Michael the Count Bisping. I like him because he's got one eye, and he won a championship with one eye, which is pretty badass. First British champion, I believe. And then you got like Leon Edwards and Tom Aspinall following suit. Pay homage to the OG. But yeah, I love him. I watched him when he was on Tough against Matt Hamill. I watched him when he was a coach on Tough against Mayhem Miller. That's probably one of my favorite seasons of Tough. I just love it. I love his trash talk. And yeah, guy's an absolute animal. Someone who's going to lose their eye and then go out there and still fight, knowing that you might lose the other one's pretty crazy. And the way he got through these tests, these medical tests, in order to be able to fight, it's pretty crazy stuff. All that's public information, obviously, because of Joe Rogan, and he's just he's great. Definitely my favorite fighter. He's in the Hall of Fame. You know, a lot of people a little controversial as far as his title defense against the guy who knocked him out, in Dan Henderson. That was a good fight, but he fights a 45-year-old Dan Henderson who's ranked, what was he ranked? Maybe 13th or something at the time, which is a pretty crazy thing to get a title shot against that guy. But there's a history there. Michael Bisping, man, he's a company man. He's got a podcast. He's like kind of like a path of like least resistance when it comes to certain issues, but he keeps it real. His podcast with Anthony Smith is pretty cool, and yeah, he'd be definitely a great friend to have in your corner if you were a fighter, but maybe I wouldn't get drunk with him at a bar because I've heard some pretty crazy stories. Yeah, Michael Bisping's awesome. Definitely my favorite fighter. Now, moreover, who I think is the GOAT of fighting, I mean, it's all perspective at the end of the day. I mean, I don't see Fedor out of the conversation because he didn't fight anybody in the UFC. That's a whole thing in itself. He fought a lot of guys who went to the UFC. I think Fedor is a great fighter. I think Demetrius Johnson is a guy who doesn't get enough love. Mighty Mouse. I think GSP's great. There's so many great fighters. But I mean, the guy I haven't mentioned is Jon Jones. And in my personal belief, I do believe he is the GOAT. There's a ton of controversy around him and that. I mean, especially right now when it's kind of ducking Aspinall a little bit. Guy changed his cover photo on Instagram to a duck with a belt around it right after he had his fight against Stipe. Refused to talk to any British reporters because he didn't want to speak on the topic. But yeah, I mean, he's been ducking Tom. He's been saying a lot of things. He wants a lot of money from the UFC if he's going to fight him. He wants to fight Alex Pereira because he knows he's going to take him down. He doesn't want to fight a guy who's been doing jiu-jitsu, taught by his dad since he was a little boy, and he knows what he's doing. Dangerous guy. Not a lot of fight footage to study because no one really makes it out of the first round. So, yeah, it's a scary guy. I think the fight will probably happen, but back to what I was saying. I believe Jon Jones the GOAT. I mean, if you look at his resume, he's just walked through the best of the best. It's unbelievable. And I mean, he goes up to heavyweight, he beats Ciryl Gane, and then he beats Stipe. It's hard to deny him. Now, I mean, it's a little tough when you have a guy be out for as long as he was while Tom Aspinall's kicking ass, and then he doesn't fight him. He fights Stipe, a guy who hasn't fought in 3 years, whose last fight was getting knocked out by Francis Ngannou. It's tough, right? Youngest MMA champion, Jon Jones, man. He's got the full arsenal, and he's got some God-given talents. Abdul Manap, Khabib's dad, he acknowledged him as the best of all time and the most talented. The guy would get drunk and fucked up a week before a fight just so he'd had an excuse if he loses. But he won every fight. We have some controversy there. I know you guys will consider Dominic Reyes a loss, which I do. I think you have to take it to the champion, and those last 2 rounds were, but Dominic Reyes, you got that Gustafsson fight. That was a close one. Thiago Santos, I'm not so much on that, but, yeah, Jon Jones, man, that's my GOAT. And he definitely did take steroids. If any of you people have watched like the whole picogram thing. If any of you guys have watched No Plates or Dates, More Plates, More Dates, sorry guys, on Joe Rogan talk about Jon Jones, I mean, he breaks it down better than anyone possibly could as to what he was taking and what he was doing, how he was tapering off certain things and how it was very sketchy. And then you got Joe Rogan who like will instantly forget about all that information when he interviews someone else and they bring up Jon Jones steroids abuse. So there's that. Again, there's a lot of guys you can point to who are a lot of better people than Jon Jones. I mean, the guy's not been a stand-up dude, you know, or a champion. And then Chandler Jones, you know, his brother, he's got some problems too. But yeah, no, love the Jones family, by the way. Very athletic. But yeah, Jon Jones, he's the GOAT. And I think Tom Aspinall probably beats him. And yeah, until that happens, we'll see. I think even after that happens, you know, Jon's got such an impressive resume. And I mean, if you want to say a guy like Khabib, I mean, Khabib lost to Glibson Tebow in his earlier fight. That's an early fight. You guys can watch back and check for yourself. He lost that. I mean, every one of these champions gets a free fight. GSP had it with Johnny Hendricks. He lost that fight, but they gave it to him. Every champion gets a free fight. But yeah, Khabib is someone who, I mean, he goes out on top, but I think Islam's better all time than him now. He fought McGregor, Poirier, and Justin Gaethje as title defenses. Guys that don't really wrestle. Justin Gaethje will never wrestle, ever. But yeah, Jon Jones. Hopefully we see him, and I think he said he wants to fight 2 more times before he retires, and then he said he wants to make a bunch of movies. So that should be good. I saw him recently. There's a show called The Cage, which is it's a French show that's dubbed on Netflix about a aspiring UFC fighter. And they have a couple fighters who appear in it. I think like GSP's in it, Cyril Gane, Jon Jones shows up at the end. He had some more. He was actually not too bad, you know? I could see him in like a Navy SEALs role maybe, or like as like a background extra in like Extraction 3 with Liam Hemsworth, or Chris Hemsworth, sorry. There's a lot of great fighters outside of the UFC. You know, I'm interested to know who some of your guys' GOATs are, so maybe in the comments you guys can let me know what you think. Because, you know, it's all about perspective at the end of the day. There's a lot of things you have to take into account, you know, when discussing the GOAT debate. I truly believe that that's the case, and there's a lot of factors that go in, you know, and we're all different people, so we have thresholds for what's okay, you know. Jon Jones, you know, crashing into a pregnant lady and then fleeing the scene doesn't sit so well with many people. Didn't sit well with Daniel Cormier, which makes sense because he lost his daughter in a car accident. That fueled their rivalry a lot because he didn't like him as a person because he thought he was a reckless asshole, which he was. But yeah. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next time.